Hey, I'm Scott Paskowitz, founder of Disciplined Being. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It's free to push that button, and the value you'll receive is limitless. So let's get into it. If someone can upset you in 10 seconds, they still have access to your nervous system. And if you're a single parent or co-parenting with someone that's a little bit difficult, you already know exactly what I mean. One text, one comment, one subtle jab, and suddenly your heart rate spikes, your chest tightens, your thoughts race, and before you even realize it, you've reacted. Not because you're weak, not because you're immature, but because something inside you was activated. Today, we're going to talk about how to stop reacting. Not by suppressing emotions, not by being the bigger person, but by taking your power back at the nervous system level. So, let's be honest. If this was just a random person, you'd probably hit the block button and move on your way. But with co-parenting, you don't get that luxury. You share kids, you share schedules, you share history, and often you share unresolved emotional wounds. So every interaction carries weight. There's fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood, fear of how it affects your kids, and fear of being painted as the problem. And when someone knows your past, they also know exactly where to poke you. This isn't accidental, it's familiar. Here's the first major reframe we can do. They are not controlling you, your nervous system is. What you call being triggered is actually your body reacting to a perceived threat before your conscious mind even gets a vote. Your body doesn't distinguish between a physical threat, an emotional memory, or even a familiar pattern from the past. It reacts the same way: fast, protective, and automatic. That's why logic disappears in the moment. Manipulation isn't about intelligence, it's about timing and familiarity. If someone knows what makes you feel guilty, what makes you feel defensive, what makes you feel like you need to explain yourself, they don't need to argue. They just need to activate the wound. And once you're activated, you're no longer responding. You're reacting. And reaction is where power leaks. So let's clear up the differences between reaction and response. First, a reaction, which is fast, emotional, automatic, rooted in the past or some pain. As where a response is slower, it's intentional, grounded, rooted right here in the present. Reaction feels urgent, response feels calm, even uncomfortable at first. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The pause is power, and manipulators hate pauses. They hate silence. Here's something most people don't know. When an emotion is triggered, the chemical response in your body peaks and falls in about 90 seconds. You'll hear this from Mel Robbins. You don't need to fix anything immediately. You don't need to respond right away. You don't need to defend yourself. You need to let the wave pass. No text deserves instant access to your nervous system. When you do respond, keep it neutral, factual, and brief. No emotion, no explanation, no defending your character. Just think: logistics, dates, times, and facts. The moment you start explaining your intentions, you've stepped back into the emotional arena. Stay away from there. Silence and simplicity are not weakness, they're clarity. Here's another key principle. You can't think your way out of a triggered state. You regulate through the body first. That means walking, breathing deeply, cold water on the face, just grounding your feet. When the body calms, the mind follows. Presence isn't spiritual fluff. It's psychological. This is where things really change. Stop seeing yourself as someone who needs to react. Adopt this new identity. I am someone who observes. Observers do not rush. Observers don't argue. Observers don't chase closure. They notice patterns. They respond when necessary. They conserve energy. We're efficient. And when you stop reacting, something surprising happens. The dynamic shifts. Sometimes the other person escalates because their usual strategy no longer works. Other times they stop trying altogether. Not because you won, but because there's nothing left to feed on. And here's the most important part. Your kids feel it. They don't need perfection. They need regulation. When they see calm instead of chaos, they learn safety. You're not just managing conflict, you're breaking cycles. You don't need to control the other person. You need to master your response. That's real power. If you've made it to this point, I know you're serious. Not too many people make it this far. And if you want help building this level of presence, this emotional steadiness, this internal discipline, that's exactly why I created the 7-day presence protocol. Not to escape life, but to meet it calmly, clearly, and on your terms. No time like the presence.